This is the moment. 4 a.m. Tuesday morning, across 179 American cities, federal agents are simultaneously executing warrants. Doors are being breached. Gang members are being pulled from their beds. This isn't a local drug bust. This is the largest coordinated gang takedown in modern American law enforcement history. The target, Sureños. If you don't know that name, you should, because this gang network has been operating in plain sight, controlling drug distribution, orchestrating violence, and corrupting entire neighborhoods from coast to coast. Today, we're taking you inside Project Southbound, how ICE's Homeland Security Investigations unit planned and executed the most complex gang operation in federal law enforcement history. The intelligence gathering, the coordination, the takedown, and what this means for communities across America. To understand Project Southbound, you first need to understand the enemy. The Sureños aren't just another street gang. They're a network, an organization, a criminal empire that's been growing for over 60 years. The story begins in the California prison system in the 1960s. Hispanic inmates from Southern California formed the Mexican Mafia, also known as La M, to protect themselves from other prison gangs. But what started as protection soon became something far more sinister. The Mexican Mafia realized they could control not just prisons, but the streets. They needed soldiers on the outside. That's where the Sureños came in. The name means Southerners in Spanish, referring to their Southern California origins. The number 13 became their calling card. M is the 13th letter of the alphabet, M for Mexican Mafia. Every Sureño set identifies with 13. 13 tattoos, 13 in graffiti. It's their brand, their identity. But here's what makes Sureños different from other gangs. They're not centralized. There's no single leader giving orders from the top. Instead, they operate as a franchise model. Individual sets maintain autonomy while paying tribute to the Mexican Mafia through drug taxes and following basic codes. This structure made them almost impossible to destroy through traditional law enforcement. Take down one set, 5 more appear. Arrest a leader, someone immediately replaces him. By the early 2000s, Sureños had expanded beyond California into Arizona, Texas, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, and eventually across the entire United States. Their criminal enterprises expanded too. Drug distribution became their primary revenue source. Methamphetamine, cocaine, heroin, fentanyl. But they also moved into human trafficking, weapons smuggling, identity theft, extortion, and contract killings. According to FBI estimates, Sureños-affiliated gang members number over 150,000 across the United States. That's larger than many military forces. Their annual drug trafficking revenue exceeds $2 billion. That's billion with a B. But statistics don't tell the whole story. Behind those numbers are communities torn apart, families destroyed, children recruited into violence before they're old enough to understand what they're joining, small businesses extorted, witnesses too terrified to testify. This is the enemy that ICE Homeland Security Investigations decided to target, not with traditional tactics, not by going after individual sets one at a time, but with something unprecedented. A coordinated, nationwide, simultaneous strike designed to cripple the entire network at once. 14 months before those pre-dawn raids, ICE Homeland Security Investigations Headquarters, Washington, D.C., a special agent in charge stands before a room full of federal agents, local police chiefs, and intelligence analysts. The message is clear. We've been fighting Sureños for decades. We arrest 10, 20 appear. We disrupt one distribution network, 3 more pop up. We need to change our approach. We need to think bigger. The idea for Project Southbound emerged from this meeting. Instead of targeting individual gang sets, what if they mapped the entire network? What if they identified every major player, every distribution route, every connection simultaneously, and then struck everywhere at once? It was ambitious. It required unprecedented cooperation between federal, state, and local agencies. ICE HSI would lead. but they'd need help from the FBI's Safe Streets task forces, DEA for drug intelligence, ATF for weapons tracking, U.S. Marshals for fugitive apprehension, and local police departments in every target city. Phase 1. Intelligence gathering. For 9 months, agents worked around the clock. They infiltrated gang communications through confidential informants. They monitored social media where gang members openly flaunted their activities. They tracked financial transactions to identify money laundering operations. The digital age made gangs more visible than ever. Members posted photos with guns, drugs, and stolen property. They broadcasted their locations. They communicated plans thinking they were anonymous. They weren't. HSI agents built an unprecedented database. They identified not just street-level dealers, but mid-level distributors, suppliers, money handlers, enforcers, and the shot callers who gave orders. They mapped relationships between different sets. They tracked drug shipments from source to street. By month 10, they had identified targets in 179 cities across 34 states. Over 600 individuals ranging from teenagers recruited into violence to 40-year-old gang veterans orchestrating operations from prison. Phase 2. Legal preparation. Federal prosecutors began preparing cases. They needed warrants for every target, search warrants, arrest warrants, seizure warrants. They needed to ensure every piece of evidence would hold up in court. They coordinated with district attorneys in multiple jurisdictions. This wasn't a rush job. Every target had to have solid evidence, direct criminal activity, provable gang affiliation, clear charges that would result in convictions, not just arrests. They were building cases designed to put people away for years, not days. Phase 3. Tactical preparation. You can't just send agents into dangerous situations unprepared. Tactical teams trained for specific scenarios. They studied the layouts of target residences. They identified which targets were likely to be armed and dangerous. They planned escape routes, backup positions, medical support. Officer safety was paramount. These weren't white-collar criminals. These were individuals involved in violent crimes, many with weapons charges, some with records of assaulting law enforcement. Every detail mattered. By month 14, everything was ready. Warrants signed, teams briefed, equipment staged. The operation was scheduled for a Tuesday morning in October. The date was carefully chosen, early enough in the week that courts would be open for processing, late enough that weekend activities would have gang members at predictable locations. The night before Project Southbound launched, over 3,000 federal agents, local police officers, and support personnel positioned themselves in 179 cities. This was it. The largest coordinated gang operation in American history was about to begin.
4 a.m. Pacific Time, Los Angeles. 53 ICE HSI agents backed by LAPD gang units hit 17 locations simultaneously. In South Los Angeles, a known Sureños stronghold, a tactical team leads the approach to a residential address. Intelligence indicates this location houses a mid-level distributor for a Florence 13 set. The team approaches in darkness. Breach team ready. Federal agents search warrant. The door comes down. Agents flood in, room by room, clearing. Within 90 seconds, 3 suspects are in custody. In the bedroom, agents find 2 kilos of methamphetamine, 110 pounds of cocaine, 33 pounds of fentanyl, and 66 pounds of heroin. That's enough fentanyl to kill millions. Let's put that in perspective. 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. 33 pounds is 15 million milligrams. That's enough to kill 7.5 million people, and it was destined for American streets. The weapons cache was equally disturbing. Over 300 firearms seized. Many were illegal, sawed-off shotguns, fully automatic modifications, ghost guns with no serial numbers. Agents found AR-15 style rifles, high-capacity magazines, and, in one location, a Barrett .50 caliber sniper rifle, capable of penetrating armored vehicles.
Money seizures exceeded $7 million in cash, but the total asset seizure was even higher.
Agents identified and froze bank accounts, seized luxury vehicles, and marked properties purchased with drug money for forfeiture. Total asset disruption, over $30 million. Each raid told a different story. In Atlanta, agents hit a seemingly normal suburban home only to find a secret room behind a closet filled with drugs and weapons. In Denver, a legitimate-looking auto repair shop was actually a chop shop processing stolen vehicles. In Miami, a storage unit facility housed enough drugs to supply the entire region for months. The sophistication of concealment methods was remarkable. False bottom drawers, fake HVAC vents, vehicles with hidden compartments that required specific sequences to open. In one Phoenix location, agents found a tunnel leading to a neighboring property. But beyond the drugs and guns, there were people. Some targets surrendered immediately, hands up, knowing it was over. Others showed defiance, refusing to cooperate. And then there were the families, children who watched their fathers arrested, mothers pulled from their homes, teenagers realizing their lives were about to change forever. By noon, processing centers in major cities were overwhelmed. Over 400 suspects were in federal custody. Another 200 would be arrested over the next 72 hours as fugitive teams tracked down targets who weren't at their expected locations. Day one of Project Southbound was deemed a massive success. 623 arrests, over 145 different Sureños gang sets disrupted. No agent injuries, no civilian casualties. The largest single-day gang operation in federal law enforcement history. But the operation was just beginning. Now came the real work, turning arrests into convictions, analyzing seized evidence, and dismantling the networks these gang members had built. In the days following the raids, federal evidence facilities became overwhelmed. Over 12 tons of physical evidence needed processing, cataloging, and analysis. This wasn't just about storing drugs and guns. Every item had to be documented, tested, and connected to specific suspects and charges. The forensic analysis began immediately. Fingerprints lifted from drug packages, DNA from weapons, ballistics testing on every firearm to see if they matched unsolved shootings, chemical analysis of drugs to identify purity and source. But the most valuable evidence wasn't physical, it was digital. Agents seized over 800 cell phones, 200 laptops, and countless hard drives and USB devices. These would provide a window into the entire gang network. Digital forensic experts began extracting data. Text messages revealed distribution schedules, supplier contacts, and customer lists. Photos showed gang members with drugs and weapons, evidence they'd documented themselves. Social media accounts provided connections between different gang sets across the country. As analysts pieced together the digital evidence, a picture emerged that was even larger than anticipated. The Sureños network wasn't just operating city by city. It was interconnected across state lines with sophisticated logistics, shared suppliers, and coordinated distribution territories. Financial records told another story. Gang members weren't just stuffing cash under mattresses. They were operating legitimate businesses as fronts. Restaurants, car washes, repair shops, even daycare centers. They were purchasing real estate, laundering money through complex transactions, and in some cases, investing in legitimate stock markets. One arrest in Dallas led to the discovery of a network of 12 LLCs, 5 properties, and 2 operating businesses, all funded by drug money. The suspect had even filed taxes, paid payroll, and maintained business licenses, all while running a methamphetamine distribution operation, generating $50,000 monthly. But perhaps the most significant discovery involved international connections. Phone records and financial transactions linked several arrested members directly to cartel operations in Mexico. These weren't independent operators, they were working as distribution arms for major drug trafficking organizations. Evidence suggested connections to both the Sinaloa cartel and Jalisco New Generation cartel. The Sureños weren't just buying drugs, they were serving as the American distribution network for some of the most violent criminal organizations in the world. The weapons evidence revealed another disturbing pattern. While drugs flowed north from Mexico, guns were flowing south. Several arrested members had been involved in straw purchasing operations, buying weapons legally in the U.S. and smuggling them to cartels in Mexico. ATF agents identified at least 40 firearms seized in Project Southbound that were purchased specifically for export. And then there was the evidence that's hardest to discuss. In at least 6 locations, agents found evidence of human trafficking operations. Not just drug trafficking, trafficking in people. Young women forced into prostitution, undocumented individuals held in debt bondage, children in dangerous situations. Project Southbound wasn't just about arresting gang members, it also meant rescuing victims. HIS has a victim assistance program that immediately activated, providing emergency services, medical care, and connections to long-term support for trafficking survivors. After 3 weeks of analysis, federal prosecutors began presenting cases to grand juries. The evidence was overwhelming. Digital communications, financial records, physical evidence, witness testimony, forensic analysis. Many defendants, seeing the evidence against them, began cooperating in hopes of reduced sentences. Federal courthouses across the country prepared for an unprecedented caseload. 623 defendants meant hundreds of arraignments, bail hearings, and eventual trials. The U.S. Attorney's offices coordinated to ensure consistent charging and sentencing recommendations. The charges varied by defendant. Street-level dealers faced drug distribution charges, usually 5 to 10 years. Mid-level distributors faced conspiracy charges, 10 to 20 years. But for the major players, prosecutors brought RICO charges, Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. RICO was designed to combat organized crime. It allows prosecutors to charge individuals not just for specific crimes, but for participating in a criminal enterprise. If convicted under RICO, defendants face up to 20 years, potentially life, and mandatory asset forfeiture. Let's look at specific cases. In Los Angeles, a 38-year-old shot caller for a Florencia 13 set faced RICO charges connecting him to drug distribution, weapons trafficking, and 3 murders. Evidence included intercepted phone calls where he ordered hits, financial records showing him receiving drug proceeds, and testimony from former gang members. In Houston, a 24-year-old gang member who had been recruiting teenagers into the gang faced charges including drug distribution, weapons possession, and contributing to the delinquency of minors. His social media accounts showed him flashing gang signs, posing with drugs and weapons, and openly advertising his criminal lifestyle. His own posts became evidence against him. As cases proceeded, many defendants chose cooperation over trial. In exchange for truthful testimony against higher-level members, they received reduced sentences. This created a domino effect. Street dealers testified against distributors. Distributors testified against suppliers. The entire network began to unravel from the inside. By 6 months after Project Southbound, over 400 defendants had been convicted. 73 received sentences over 10 years. 21 received life sentences. The average sentence for Project Southbound defendants was 8 years, significantly higher than typical gang-related prosecutions. But prison time wasn't the only consequence. Asset forfeiture proceedings stripped convicted gang members of everything purchased with drug money. Homes sold at auction, luxury vehicles seized, bank accounts emptied. Over $45 million in assets were forfeited to the federal government. That money didn't just disappear. Under federal law, forfeited assets fund law enforcement operations, support community programs, and provide restitution to victims of crime. In this case, over $3 million went directly to communities affected by gang violence. Legal experts called Project Southbound a landmark case. The successful prosecution of so many defendants simultaneously, the coordination between jurisdictions,
and the use of RICO charges against street gang members set important precedents. This wasn't just about these 600 arrests, it created a roadmap for future operations.
But statistics and convictions don't tell the whole story. The real measure of Project Southbound's success is measured in communities. Neighborhoods where families can finally feel safe. Business owners who no longer pay extortion. Kids who can walk to school without fear. In South Los Angeles, a neighborhood that saw 17 arrests reported a 60% reduction in gang-related violence in the 6 months following Project Southbound. Community leaders reported that young people felt less pressure to join gangs. Parents felt safer sending their children to school. Small businesses began reopening in areas they'd previously avoided. One community in Phoenix saw 5 new businesses open within 3 months of the operation. Economic activity returned to neighborhoods that had been essentially controlled by gang activity. Schools in heavily affected areas reported improved attendance and reduced disciplinary incidents. When gang recruiters are arrested, their influence over young people diminishes. Teachers reported students felt more comfortable participating in after-school activities without fear of gang harassment. But we need to be realistic. Project Southbound didn't eliminate the Sureños. 623 arrests out of an estimated 150,000 members nationwide represents about 0.4% of the total gang population. New members will be recruited. New leaders will emerge. The structure that created these gangs still exists. What Project Southbound did accomplish was disrupt the network, remove key players, and demonstrate that coordinated federal action can make a difference. ICE HSI continues operating task forces in major cities. The intelligence gathered during Project Southbound continues generating new leads and operations. More importantly, Project Southbound sparked conversations about prevention. Communities are investing in youth programs, job training, and alternatives to gang life. Law enforcement agencies are building relationships with at-risk communities rather than just making arrests. The model created by Project Southbound is being replicated. Similar operations have targeted MS-13, Bloods, Crips, and other gang networks. The lesson is clear. Coordinated, intelligence-driven, multi-jurisdictional operations work. But enforcement alone won't solve the gang problem. We need to address root causes. Why do young people join gangs? Often it's about belonging, protection, and economic opportunity. Areas with high gang activity often have high poverty, failing schools, and limited legitimate economic opportunities. Project Southbound is more than an operation. It's a statement. Criminal organizations, no matter how sophisticated, how widespread, or how violent, can be disrupted. Communities can be reclaimed. Justice can be served. 623 arrests, 145 gang sets disrupted, 179 cities, 34 states, one unified mission: protecting American communities from gang violence. This fight isn't over. It never is. But operations like Project Southbound prove that when agencies work together, when communities support law enforcement, and when we commit resources to both punishment and prevention, we can make a difference. Thank you for watching this deep dive into Project Southbound. If this investigation opened your eyes to the complexity of gang operations and law enforcement response, hit that like button. Subscribe for more in-depth coverage of major federal operations. Drop a comment with your thoughts on how we can better address gang violence in America. Stay informed, stay engaged, and remember, safer communities are built by all of us working together.